Hello everyone, it's Brian here with the second part of random records selected by you from my collection. If you haven't seen this before and you're wondering how that's done, I will put a link below to the video in which I introduced the topic and told you how you can choose a bin and record number. So I did 6 last time, I'll do 6 more today. I've had something like 40, 43, 44 responses, so it'll take a bit of time to get through them. So the good news is no one has picked anything embarrassing. There's been no dirty secrets revealed, nothing controversial, I don't think, so far. So I'm waiting for that to happen. Hopefully someone will pick something that I'm really embarrassed by, but we'll see how it goes. So I will leave names in the video description of people who suggested records. So I'm going to start with someone I've met before. So this is Randall Nelson. I met him in Buffalo last year. I'm intrigued by his ongoing series in which he discusses his favorite movie, TV show, song, and album for each year, starting way back in the 60s, which is really impressive because he has a fantastic collection of things. He said to me, Cube 13, Record 13, if you please. I hope you aren't superstitious. I'm not superstitious. I would describe myself as being the opposite of whatever superstitious is. I don't know what the word is, but not in the least superstitious about anything. So record 13 in Cube 13 happens to be a various artists record, which I haven't put in the various artists collection because to me it fits with a particular artist called Brian Eno, because it's Music for Films 3. The first 2 Music for Films items were Brian Eno ones, so I just put this there. And it does feature Brian Eno, but as you can see, there are a number of other musicians involved here. So we have Brian Eno, Daniel Lanois, Michael Brook, Roger Eno, Laraji, Harold Budd, John Paul Jones, Misha Malin, and Lydia Theremin. This was released in 1988, and it continues the Music for Films sound and theme that you may know if you know the original Music for Films record. As I said, this is 1988. There's the back of it. And I think this is a really terrific, atmospheric, ambient collection of music. I would say my favorite piece on here, though, is Tension Block from Daniel Lanois and Brian Eno, which is a bit less ambient than the rest. I think is really a terrific recording. And as it happens, I also have the compact disc for this particular release. This has 15 tracks. There are various different iterations of this release with different track listings, but it's all very good. Kind of a boring, just a plastic black sleeve. And there we have one of the labels. The other side. Really terrific. Of course, if you're a Brian Eno fan, you probably already know this record. If you don't and you like his music, there's no reason why you wouldn't like this if you like his ambient output, and if you like Daniel Lanois, for example, or Harold Budd, Roger Eno. Really good collection of music that I used to listen to a lot more frequently than I do now, but maybe I should put that on. Okay, so thank you, Randy, for that. Number 2 is from Mike, PC31, the Vinyl Policeman, which is one of the first channels I think I connected with in the vinyl community. He has very similar musical taste to me, with some differences, of course, and he wrote Ingenious. Now, I guess with respect to the idea of choosing bins and records, bin number 10, record 26, great idea, Brian. And so, Mike, bin number 10, record 26 is a fantastic 12-inch single. I do love my 12-inch singles. I have a lot of them. I've talked about them before. I love the idea that they have different artwork on the cover. I love the idea that you get sometimes extended mixes, sometimes B-sides, some things that haven't been released before, all sorts of curious things. This happens to be a record from The Cure, Pictures of You, which is their 12-inch single of Pictures of You, obviously, from 1990. So this comes from Disintegration from 1989. This single came out in 1990. I'm not sure when in 1990. Here's the back. So you'll see Fiction Records, 1990. This features what's called here the extended remix of Pictures of You, but in fact it isn't. It's the strange remix of Pictures of You. And it even says extended remix on the label, which is not quite right, but that's okay. Pictures of You. And the flip side has 2 live tracks from the Entreat live record recorded at Wembley in 1989. That recording of those live tracks is fantastic. If you don't know that one, I would recommend that you get it. This is pressed on 45 RPM from 1990, as I say. I'm not sure where Pictures of You lands in the singles from Disintegration. It's one of the later ones, I think. Third or fourth, perhaps. Disintegration is a truly wonderful record. And I'm quite happy to have this because I do love 12-inch singles. And sadly, I'm missing a couple of Cure 12-inch singles, the earlier ones. But that is fantastic. Really great. Thank you, Mike, for that choice. Number 3 is from Greg, 3 Dimensions of Music, who hopefully I will meet this summer in Buffalo. We'll have to see. He wrote, I have 48 bins. You got me by 4 because in my video I mentioned I have 52. He says, I choose bin 48, number 4. Bin 48, number 4, Greg, is from Supertramp. Now, this is all based on whether I have counted correctly, and I think I have. This is Brother, Where You Bound from Supertramp. That's the back of it from 1985. To be honest, I gave up on Supertramp. I loved Crime of the Century, although that was not the first Supertramp record I heard. I loved Even in the Quietest Moments, Crisis What Crisis. Honestly, I think the first Supertramp record I owned was Breakfast in America. And considering all the Supertramp records, I wouldn't put that anywhere near the top, although I might have at the time. Crime of the Century is the record for me. And then after that record, Paris was interesting. Famous Last Words left me a little bit cold. Excuse me. And so I was reluctant to get this record when it came out. In fact, I heard the single Cannonball, saw the video, was sort of amused by it, but, at this point, Roger Hodgson had left the band, so it seemed to be a diminished Supertramp. But at the same time, they returned to a more proggy kind of sound. There's only 6 tracks on here. They're quite long, so Cannonball is quite a long track. And then the centerpiece of this album that sort of reflects on Cold War themes is Brother, Where You Bound. It's 16 and almost a half minutes long, featuring David Gilmour on guitar, which is kind of cool. So, I didn't get this at the time, but I got it years later, and I have to say it's better than I expected it to be. There's the remnants of Supertramp. And weirdly, I have Supertramp records after this too, if you can believe it. There's the lyrics. And I'll show you the labels. So Cannonball is 7 minutes and 42 seconds. And then we have Still in Love, No In Between Better Days. Did I get it right? Brother, Where You Bound, 16 minutes and 27 seconds. Takes up almost all of side 2. It's a pretty good track, I have to say. So yeah, not anywhere close to my favorite Supertramp record, but better than I thought it would be. I think this is a fairly easy record to find. And so yeah, not a bad one. Thank you, Greg. Number 10 from Crazy Warlock, who I've got to know a bit through some of his comments. He chose bin number 8, record number 8, which is a record from Canadian singer-songwriter Bruce Cockburn. Many people see the title. It's called The Trouble with Normal. This came out in 1983. I can't remember what record it is for this guy. He's almost 80 now, and he's released a huge number of records. I think Canada's best guitarist, maybe less well-known outside of Canada. On this particular record, he continues with, more political themes, less folky than his previous outings. I think a really good record. Not my favorite Bruce Cockburn record. It does have some really great tracks on here, like the title track, for example, The Trouble with Normal, I think is fantastic. Candyman's Gone is good. Hoop Dancer is, 7 minutes and 48 seconds. I like it sonically. I think musically it's quite interesting, but, he speaks the lyrics and it doesn't really thrill me, to be honest. So that's kind of almost a miss for me. Waiting for the Moon is good. Then obviously we have Tropic Moon. And then some more political tracks like the title track, but we have Going Up Against Chaos. We have Civilization and Its Discontents. I skipped one there, Put Our Hearts Together. And then Planet of the Clowns is another one that's kind of political. He printed his lyrics in English and French. There he is there. So let me just read you a bit of The Trouble with Normal. I'll read the first verse. Written in Toronto in 1981. Strikes across the frontier and strikes for higher wage. Planet lurches to the right as ideologies engage. Suddenly it's repression, moratorium on rights. What did they think the politics of panic would invite? Person in the street shugs, security comes first, but the trouble with normal is it always gets worse. First time I heard him sing that in concert, he dedicated it to Brian Mulroney, then Conservative Prime Minister of Canada, which I thought was quite amusing. So yeah, pretty good Bruce Cockburn. I'm all in with Bruce Cockburn though. I have everything he's ever released. I think he's fantastic. Fantastic guitarist. Next, we have from Jay Nebs. I'll leave a link below. That's Jeff. He does videos from time to time. He's not one of those people who puts out a video every day or anything, but he wrote, "Now, if a 6 turned out to be a 9, I don't mind. So I said, do you want bin 6 record 9? He said, sure. Sadly, it's not Jimi Hendrix, but it is David Byrne. This is songs from the Broadway production of The Catherine Wheel, choreographed and directed by Twyla Tharp. I mentioned this record in the previous video when I was responding to a Scottish music thread by Gordon at I Dig Vinyl. And I was reminded when doing that research for that video that David Byrne was actually born in Scotland, something I'd forgotten about. Born in Dumbarton. And then I mentioned in that video that he spent some time living in Hamilton, which is just around the corner from Toronto. So that's kind of cool, a little Canadian connection. This is a little bit of a remainder punch out here. So this is an interesting record because it is funky a bit. It does have that sound of Talking Heads in places, but not everywhere. And of course, Brian Eno appears here. Adrian Belew, one of my favorite guitarists, is on this recording. This has 13 tracks, but if you get the compact disc version, you have 23 tracks, and I think more opportunity to hear Brian. This is 72 minutes, so obviously much longer than the record. But the record actually is pretty good. I remember listening to it around the time I did that video, and I thought, I hadn't heard it in a long time. I thought it was pretty cool. Other people appear here, like Jerry Harrison appears on guitars. I can't read everything here. It's all over the place, but who else is here? I don't know. Anyway, I would never go to see a production of The Catherine Wheel because I don't really like dance, but the music is kind of cool. And here are the labels on Sire, David Byrne. Yeah, pretty cool. I have to say it's a good record. There's some vocals as well, so I really like that. Thank you, Jeff, for that. And finally, from JWG Moore 6797, who's commented from time to time, says he has no channel, but he's picked bin 41, record 31, and I mean, this record doesn't need any introduction at all. Bruce Springsteen, Darkness on the Edge of Town from 1978. I'm a big Bruce Springsteen fan, in case you didn't know that. I have everything he's released, with a couple of exceptions that maybe one day I'll talk about. And this is probably the first time I ever heard him. When I was at a friend's house, he had a copy of this record, and I used to go there from time to time. He was older than me. He had older brothers and older friends, and we'd often listen to music. That's the first time I heard like Jimi Hendrix, and even Elton John was over at his house. Here's the back. And I remember sitting there listening to this record and staring at the album cover and looking at him and thinking, why is it that I've never heard of him before? I don't think I'd ever heard of him before. Maybe I heard a song here or there, but I was pretty young at the time. But I love the image here. That's a great photograph, if you ask me. And the back image is also equally cool. In the we have another photo here. I love the wallpaper in this place, wherever it is. I used to know where it was, I guess. Photographed by Frank Stefanko. Yeah, it's really the E Street Band too, but they don't credit it on the cover. Of course, this is many people's favorite Springsteen record. It's way up there for me. I'm not sure where it fits actually, but of course you probably know Badlands and Racing in the Streets, The Promised Land, Prove It All Night. Those were big tracks. Some of the tracks that I didn't appreciate as much back in the day that I appreciate now, I think about those because, for example, Adam Raised a Cain, which I always liked, but I like it more now, and especially Streets of Fire. That song I really liked back then, but I like it even more now, and I'm not quite sure why. I think that song really is fantastic. So, Bruce Springsteen, Darkness on the Edge of Town. Thanks, JWG Moore, for that suggestion. As I mentioned, I'll leave a link to the first video. If you want to suggest a record, that's fine. It'll take me a while to get through them. And thanks for everyone who's made suggestions so far. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.